Boys, we are back. Week 3 prediction show. We're coming up on week 3 of the Barbers United Fantasy Football League. And so we're going to go through all the matchups here. We're going to go through the current standings as is. We're going to go through all the matchups. And we are going to make our predictions. And we are going to see who we think is going to win, who we think is going to lose, who we think is going to rise up the standings, all that good stuff. So I'm back as always. We got Lucas here back from the last video as well. And welcome in.
Yeah, good to be here again. So I just like talking football, so it's always good to be back. And then, of course, you're looking forward instead of sort of reacting. So there's always that different dynamic there of putting your prediction in to see
it's a lot easier just looking at the last week's scores and being able to see what other people performed as and say, okay, yeah, that was a smart start because he got 30 points, or that was a bad start. But now it's hard to do the other side where you're like, okay, let's see, what do we think is going to happen? Because then when you get it wrong, it's like, oh, I got it wrong.
Yeah, everybody looks like a genius on the back end.
Exactly.
But when you're looking at it from the front end, you're like, okay, I think this is going to happen. Yeah. But sometimes it doesn't always work out that way.
Yep. So if you watched the last video, this is Lucas. He is Book of Mormons. He is the current #1 seed in our standings, which you are looking at right here. And so are you going to stay on top this week? Is that your prediction?
Yeah, I think that I am. Obviously, no week is guaranteed unless someone just doesn't start a lot of players or has a lot of zeros on the board. But anything can happen.
All right, so into the standings, we have, like we said, Lucas at #1. We have Blake, former #1, just drops down one spot to #2. Marcos at #3. I'm at #4. Josh Shirley 5. Philip 6. Hunter at 7. Josh Locke at 8. Schutz at 9. Jacob Weir at 10. Sam at 11. And Braden still holding down that final spot in the standings. So looking at these standings, it's always tough at the beginning of the year. We're 2 weeks in. This could mean absolutely nothing come playoff time. But it does start to get you like, hey, you don't, if you're 0-2 right now, you don't want to lose another 2 or 3 in the next couple weeks. You know what I mean? You need to start getting things in the right direction if you want to get out of that hole. Thankfully, I know one of these matchups is 2 guys that have not won yet. So that will kind of help one of them to get on the right path. But at what week, normally, obviously you're not worried because you're 2-0, but at what week typically do you start to get nervous in fantasy football about your record?
I would definitely say after week 3 going into week 4, if you're concerned about your team and you don't have a win up on the board yet, there's usually a reason for that. So either you've got injuries, you've got players that just are not playing up to expectations, or you have inconsistent players. If you have that consistency, usually you can catch someone on a bad week, and that goes a long way. Or if you don't have those players that are having those crazy weeks like Stephon Diggs and Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen and Mahomes, if you don't have one of those kinds of players, you kind of have a really good reason to worry. And at that point, if you don't have a win up on the board yet, you have to either hope that you can get really lucky in the waiver wire. Years ago, Odell Beckham, he didn't have a really good start to his rookie year, and people that picked him up 4 or 5 weeks into the season, he was a beast from that point on and won a lot of people, including myself, fantasy leagues. Yes. So you have to get really fortunate picking up like a beast player that just explodes out of nowhere, or you have to hope that those players that are injured come back and play up to expectations. But yeah, I would definitely say that if you don't have a win on the board after week 3, you have a really good reason to be concerned about the rest of your year.
So don't fret now. There is still time, but only a couple more weeks, and then you need to make some changes. So let's get into it. Let's get in these matchups, see if there's any greener pastures for some of these guys that could use a win. So we're going to go ahead and start off at the top of the board. My matchup here versus Josh Shirley. Josh Shirley was 1-0. We talked about this last week. Had he started anybody else besides Julio Jones, he would have won. He'd be 2-0. This would be a battle of the undefeateds. However, he did lose. It is 1-1 versus 2-0. My prediction is super simple. Not much to say. I'm going to pick myself. You, as having no connections to this matchup, who do you have?
So I also am going to go with you.
Because I'm right here?
No. I would, I'm not going to give you any payback for last week for not picking me. But what I'm seeing here is obviously last week Josh didn't have any output from Julio Jones. It will come down to whether or not he's going to update his lineup. And then also, too, if you have another good week from Drake London, that's definitely going to help you out. I know a lot of people are picking up Gerald Everett. McLaurin's been a favorite target of Wentz. And then Aaron Jones, he's always set to break out. And with the Packers not having Devontae Adams this year, he's definitely a good player to have because they're going to feed him a lot more. And even though you do have Dillon, I'm not entirely sure how Dillon's going to work out as an RB2 the rest of the season. You're still going to get all of Green Bay's rushing output.
Yeah.
Every point that comes out of Green Bay's backfield is going to go for you. So if Dillon has the huge game and Jones doesn't do as well, as long as they have a lot of points up on the board from their running backs, you're getting all of it.
Yeah, definitely. And it wasn't intentional to get both of them. It's kind of the way it worked out. But I don't hate it. I had a couple people give me some slack about it. Hey, why would you get two of the same guys, the same team, But like you said, last week it was Aaron Jones. He went off, and I got 40 points combined from the two of them, but it was heavily on Aaron Jones. The week before, I got 30-something points, but it was mainly A.J. Dillon. So, yes, my ceiling may not be as high, but my floor is completely safe for my two running back positions. So, I've enjoyed it. I've never done that before, but so far it's worked out well for me. So, I'll take it. You did talk about Gerald Everett. I'm going to have a hard time here soon because George Kittle is sitting on my IR. And I picked him. I spent a lot of money. I actually traded for him. I traded some good pieces away for him, and he's sitting on my IR. When he comes back, do you sit Gerald Everett, who's got, I think, 12-plus points every single week? So, and we'll have to see with Jimmy G. Obviously they have the connection with him and George Kittle. So, we'll see. That'll be a tough decision come that time. But I'm picking me. You're picking me. Josh, if you don't want to set your lineup this week, feel free. Take a break. Go on vacation. Don't even worry about it this week. No big deal. So, on to the next matchup. We have Jacob, Call of Duty, versus Hunter Ford. Who are you picking in this matchup, Lucas?
So I picked Jacob in this matchup, and one of the things that I'm anticipating is that he is going to adjust his lineup and start Tua. Tua had a absolutely bonkers week this past week. I think that, like I said earlier, I think Wentz will struggle against some pressure from Philly's defense, and so if you start Tua, obviously Buffalo's got a great defense too, but Tua's got some studs to throw to. I mean, it's hard to cover Waddle and Hill, so
6 passing touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, and he's not going to keep that up every week, but
Right.
when you've got two of the top 15 receivers in the whole league, and some could even argue right now those two guys may be top 10.
Yeah.
At least from a fantasy standpoint, they're top 10, I think.
Well, the thing with those two guys, too, is it's like, it could be a slant, it could be a screen, it could be a go, it could be a post. Anytime those two guys touch the ball, it could go to the house. So it doesn't have to be Tua making this spectacular play. He just has to get the ball into his playmakers, and they can go make the plays themselves. So Tua, surprisingly, I was not a huge Tua fan going into this year. I think he looks electric, and I think he looks like he should be a person you start week in and week out. And even if you don't love Tua and think he's the best quarterback, he's got the talent around him where you have to go for him. So I actually picked Hunter in this matchup. Hunter won last week. I said this before. I like Hunter's team a lot. He took the approach of spending most of his money on his starting lineup and then picking his bench up. So I thought he would get off to a better start to the season. He's made a couple little trades and doing some small things. So he's got A.J. Brown. He's got some really good playmakers. I like his team. I'm picking Hunter in this one. So on to the next one, we'll go Braden versus Shutt. So these are two guys that desperately need a win. We talked about some of our superlatives here. My superlative, and I did take a sneak peek at your sheet over here, and I noticed that we both have the same matchup for the most desperate matchup this week, and that is Braden versus Shutt. Two guys that need a win, that need to get out of that danger zone for the haircut. Because right now that'd be from you. So unless you guys want a haircut from Lucas, got to get out of that bottom spot there. So both of these guys could really use this win. I have Braden winning this one. Who do you have?
I have Shutt, so we're on the opposite spectrum of this one. I think it's pretty simple. The way that I'm looking at this is, the Bengals haven't really been playing up to expectations this season.
Not at all.
And just like we talked about in the last video, on paper, Braden's got an incredible core. But, Rogers is going against Tampa Bay's defense, who have been electric through the first 2 weeks of the season. Dalvin Cook only got, 6 carries on Monday night, and he hardly did anything. And he really didn't do anything the first week either. So then you look at his core, and I'm expecting Deebo Samuel to pick it up a little bit, especially having Jimmy G back in the lineup and starting. Yeah. So I think he's going to get a little bit of a boost there. But those top 3 positions, his RBs 1 and 2, and then his quarterback, I don't think they're quite playing up to what he was expecting them to at the start of the season. And then you look at the other side, you've got McCaffrey. McCaffrey is He's had some decent weeks, but I'm kind of waiting for that 1 week for him to just really go big.
Right.
And then Justin Herbert, too. I guess he's questionable, but he's playing against Jacksonville. They played really well against the Colts last week, but, Matt Ryan is an older quarterback.
Yeah.
and their receiving core isn't necessarily one of the best in the league. They're kind of middle of the pack. You have Pittman, but aside from that, you don't really have much there. As long as he can get some decent output from CeeDee Lamb and Michael Carter, he's definitely got reason to believe he'll win this week, and that's why I'm picking him.
Definitely. And Schutz has a good team. He was 2 points away from winning last week. So he had a bad week 1, a good week 2, didn't get the win, but he's probably a little bit better than his record showing. I just think for the same thing you said about Dalvin Cook, I think, if I'm the coach of the Vikings, I'm like, hey, we had a really bad performance Monday night, and we didn't get the ball to one of the most electric players in the NFL. We got to find a way to get him touches, and I think that they're going to manufacture touches for him because Kirk Cousins had a good week, but Kirk Cousins has always had a kind of up and down career. You don't want to rely on him throwing the ball 30, 40 times every single week. I think they find a way to get the ball into Dalvin Cook's hands, and he has a bounce back week and takes Braden to victory. So, on to our next one. We have Blake versus Marcos. Now, the opposite end of the spectrum, a battle of 2 undefeateds, and once again, we're on the same page here. Our most intriguing matchup of the week for both of us is the number 2 seeded Blake versus the number 3 seeded Marcos. Now, this one is super tough. Right here in the projections, Marcos is slated to win. However, this is before a lot of the final, adjustments go on to there. So there'll be people that are subbing in and out. I really don't know. This is a toss-up. These are 2 great teams. I think if I had to choose, I'd probably say Blake because he has been a little more consistent. Marcos barely sketched out the win last week. So if I have to pick, I'm going to pick Blake, but I could easily see Marcos winning this matchup as well. So,
well, and I initially, when we had thought about this, I had picked Blake over Marcos, but, the more that I think about it, the Bengals are playing the Jets this week. Yes. If there's ever going to be a team that you're going to be able to bounce back against as Joe Burrow, I think he'll get a little bit of time to throw the ball.
You hope so.
And you can, with having Jefferson and Diggs, that is absolutely ridiculous to have those 2 guys. Jefferson's not going to get locked up again like he did, last week. I think that Philly's defense played good, but that was also a little bit of an outlier too. Right. So. Now, the more that I think about it, Najee hadn't had the start to the season that he wanted. I don't think that Waddle's going to get 40 points every week. And even if he does, Diggs has been playing great too. So I think I'm going to switch it up a little bit on you, and I'm going to go with Marcus. I think that Burrow's going to have a bounce back week, and I think that Jefferson is going to, Jefferson and Diggs are going to lead him to victory. That's what I'm thinking.
All right, fair enough. It could really go either way, but I'll go Blake, you go Marcos, and one of us will be right, and the other one will cry about it. So, on to the next one. We have Philip versus Sam. Philip had a good week last week. Philip has a great team. I am a true believer in Sam's team from the bottom to the top. I just like so many of his players. Josh Allen has been incredible. MVP favorite. Way better than Jalen Hurts.
We'll see.
Josh Allen, MVP favorite. Austin Eckler, Damian Harris. He's got a good team. I think his wide receivers, they will step it up, and he probably needs to get a different tight end. But I'm going to go with Sam in this matchup. Who do you got?
Yeah, so I'm going with Phillip. I like what Amon-Ra St. Brown. I like what he's done the last couple weeks. He had a big output. He also he broke some record, or he's like I can't remember the exact stat right now, but he's like got some string of like 7 or 8 games where he's had 8 catches or more, which is really crazy. So it means that he's getting a lot of targets, and then he's also been getting in the end zone too. So if you're combining targets and receptions along with touchdowns, that's a perfect mixture. And Sam's got the top part of his team is really good, but I worry a little bit about some of his players like Thielen, Chark, Gwenabom.
I'm with you.
You can edit that out. And Dort. So, and then Kirk too. Even Kirk and Pitts. As long as Atlanta can get Pitts involved, that he's going to have a good team all around. So, but I'm thinking his Lions guys are going to lead him.
It's shocking that they haven't got it figured out. I mean, you think with a talent like Kyle Pitts, you got to give him the ball, but unfortunately, they just haven't.
Well, Atlanta's coach is a goofball too. He's got Pitts blocking for 3/4 of the game, but the guys, they took him with a 4th overall pick, and he's a pass catcher.
Yeah.
He's a receiver, so you put players in position to succeed.
Got to get those guys the ball. Get the playmakers the ball. So on to our final matchup. We saved the best for last.
I think so.
Think so. We got the number 1 in the league, Lucas Larson, going up against number 8, Josh Locke. And I'm going to go ahead. You rode with me. I'm going to ride with you here. I'm picking you to win this one. Josh Locke's team had a bad week last week. I don't expect that necessarily again. But his number 1 wide receiver, Mike Evans, is suspended. So that plays a toll into this. And obviously, you coming off an absolutely electric week. How do you not pick you to win this one? I'm going to go with you. How do you feel going up into this matchup against Josh?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Josh for the best profile picture in the league because he's got Bobby Boucher, but he's going to lose this week.
So we have best profile picture versus best name?
Yeah. So I did have a big week from a bunch of my players last week, but in a sense, they all are kind of high output fantasy players on like an average year. So I feel like that it was a little bit above what they're normally going to do, but I still feel like they're going to have good output every week. And that's kind of what I was expecting. So I feel like just overall, I feel like I'm just going to have that overall team points that kind of comes together and overcomes the really high output from Jonathan Taylor. And then Mike Evans, he's suspended. So if he doesn't update his team, that's going to be essentially a lost spot. So,
well, there it is. Those are our predictions. To be clear, you picked yourself, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay, awesome. And on that note of the best profile picture, I will say Marcos is probably tied with the picture of McLovin. That's pretty good as well. So.
Yeah, well, I think he has the best name. Trap Daddy Thatcher is kind of,
Well, I think you might have that. You might have the best name wrapped up. But he gets second, maybe first profile, but either way, all good. That'll do it. Week 3. Tune in, guys. We'll keep you guys updated, and we will see you guys next week, and we will see if my man Lucas is still at the top, or if he's been supplanted by maybe me.
Hey, I'm handing out that haircut.
And then rocking with my boys from Tennessee, trying to support the boys around here. We got a big matchup against Florida this weekend. So
hey, UT's going home with the win. I think that they got that one.
I think they do too. So thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe. We said it in the last video. My man Lucas right here has his own YouTube channel, which is
Triple L. If you search Triple L Sports, I'll be a couple of the first videos that you see there.
So,
latest series, Wild World of Sports, and we'll get Jonas here. He's on his way to 1,000 subscribers too. So
are you at 1,000?
No, I'm at 501. I just barely cracked it. I lost 5 subscribers in the last week, so I don't know what happened.
Well, maybe we'll gain you. Maybe 5 of my 20 will come join you. So there we go. So you like sports related content? Go check out my man. Give him a like. Give him a subscribe. Let's help him get to 1,000, and then maybe we'll be somewhere just coming up in the distance. So
yeah.
Either way, thank you guys. Have a good weekend. Good luck to all of your guys' rosters and teams. Hopefully you guys get the dubs. And if you have any questions on start sit, ask Lucas because he's number 1 in the league. So he's the man to go to. So thank you guys. Have a good weekend.